everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today's video is gonna be a little bit different. I have been posting vlogs for a very long time now, and I low-key kind of forgot how to do these type of like me to camera type videos. So I just wanted to make this video as like a tip for living in Korea type video. As you guys know, I have moved into a new place and it's been like 7 months since I moved into this place. And as you guys saw, like the last video that I did about housing, I lived in this like little closet type room thing. Okay, it was bigger than a closet, but it was very tiny, and for how small it was very expensive. And I told you guys there that I would be making like a how to find housing in Korea video, and a lot of people had been asking of how I found my housing and how to find housing easier in Korea. So today's video is gonna be about how to find housing in Korea, specifically Seoul, because I have not lived outside of Seoul. If I look down, I'm looking at my notes. I literally have like a book of like things that I wrote. So this video will probably be longer, but I'm trying to be as informational as I can be because I know how hard and it's absolutely difficult as a foreigner to find housing in Korea. So I want this video to be as detailed as possible so you guys can also be able to find a good house in Korea. Here she comes. So the first thing I will tell you guys, if you're trying to find housing in Korea, you should determine your budget. Housing in Seoul is very expensive if you want to live in a nice place. By the way, this is excluding people who are being sponsored to live somewhere, like teachers usually get housing automatically. This is if you're just coming in to like, you know, find a job, or you're modeling or something and you don't want to live in a model apartment. But you want to determine your budget. Usually Korea, the deposit is insanely high for housing. Like I know in America, usually it's like rent 1 month is what the deposit is. So if you're paying rent 500, your deposit will be 500. Korea does not work like that. The last apartment that you guys saw, I will be saying the prices in Korean won, so just convert it, put it on Google, you can convert it easily. It's not that hard to convert Korean won to American dollars. But my last house, the deposit was 5,000 and then my rent was 620. So, and you guys saw how tiny that house was. So when I was determining the budget for this house, I knew it had to be a lot more money because I was moving into a really nice neighborhood, and I just didn't want to live in the ghetto anymore. Like, y'all don't understand how much I hated living where I lived before. Like, I hated that place. So I knew I had to like put up a lot more money in order to live in like a nicer place. My deposit was 15,000 and my rent currently is 815 plus utilities. So I pay like at least 900 a month basically. Girl, you know damn well I don't use utilities like that. Okay, I pay like 870 a month, right? I would say for you to get like a decent apartment, you should have, like, if you want to get a decent apartment, you should at least have 5,000 saved up, and your rent should at least be 600 if you want like a nice-ish apartment. And also if you want to live in a 1-room, a 2-room, or the cheapest choice, which is a goshwon. So let's start with the goshwon part. So a goshwon is basically a closet. Like, it's literally a freaking closet. Like, you live in a closet, you share the bathroom, the kitchen area, everything with people who live in your building. Which, let me not say anything because probably people can't afford anything better, so I can't really like say anything too much about that. But I personally would never live in a goshwon. Like, if it ever came to that point in my life, I'm moving back with my parents, or I'm moving in with my brother, because there's absolutely no way I can live in a goshwon where the bathroom is being shared with other people that I don't even know. Like, I'm such a germaphobe. Like, I can't do shared bathrooms. Another reason why I live by myself in the first place is because I just don't want to clean up after anyone else. So anyways, a goshwon is the cheapest choice. Usually you don't have a deposit for a goshwon, and I think rent can amount from $100 to like $200-300, which is extremely cheap, especially because you do not have a deposit. So that's a goshwon. A 1-room, as I said before, that is depending on how nice your 1-room you want it to be. You can also do bansia. Bansia equals half basement. So your house is half in a basement and half kind of like on top of the ground, so you can kind of see the outside. But those are usually a lot cheaper to live in, obviously, because you're living underground. But that, like, a bansia comes with so many problems. I would not recommend living there unless you have no other choice. Bansia is like, if you guys watch the movie Parasite, a bansia is like basically your house is underground, but there's like a window that you can see outside. I wouldn't recommend living in a bansia. As you guys saw in Parasite, if it floods, ooh. But there are nicer bansias, but so after determining your budget and kind of where you want to live, there are a couple of apps where you can find housing on. There are apps like Zig Bang, there's Dabang, there's Ziptoss, there's also Naver real estate, where you just basically search like the deposit that you want, the rent that you want, and you basically just get the housing that's in your budget using these apps. I used Ziptoss, I believe, and Ziptoss before when I was looking for housing, but all the houses on there were just absolutely crap. Like, I don't know about now because like I have no reason to be on there right now because I have a house, but all the houses were really bad. The drain smelled really bad for all the listings that they showed me, but this is also because my deposit was also a lot lower back then. But I would recommend it if you have a higher deposit to look on these apps, but if you have a lower deposit, they're going to show you really crappy housing. Also, I think they have an English service. From what I remember last time, when I used, was it Ziptoss or Zig Bang that I used? When I used Ziptoss, they had an English service, but you would have to pay 200 or like 200 bucks in order to utilize their English service. Girl, I put on my Korean. I was like, I am not paying 200 just for you to speak to me in English. Speaking Korean, what do you mean? 200 for what? For a language? Are you mad? But yeah, you can use this if you don't even know Korean. Obviously, they have English services. You just have to be ready to pay a little bit more. Okay, I don't know about now. I should probably research before I did this video. I don't know about now, but that was back in the day. This was like 2.5 years ago when I was using these apps. But yeah, and another way to find housing is you, instead of using apps, you can use Facebook. So my old house in Chilim in the ghetto, I used Facebook to find it. Basically, there's like Seoul housing, like housing in Seoul, living in Korea, all these groups that you can like go on, and people post housing there. They're like, oh, I'm moving out and my landlord needs somebody to like complete my contract. Is there anyone looking for housing for a year? And then you can move in, and all you have to do is pay the deposit and pay the rent that the person who's moving out was paying, right? So for my house, I found it on Facebook. Actually, my last house, I found it on Facebook, and that's how I was able to find that house. So a good thing about Facebook is people are often looking for roommates. So if you don't want to live alone and you want to have cheaper rent, you can find people who are looking for roommates on there. There's like, oh, there's 3 of us and we're looking for another girl, or there's like 5 of us and we're looking for another man to live with us, or something like that. And you only have to pay like, I think the most I've seen like people pay when they have roommates is like 400 and something, right? And you don't have to pay a deposit unless they ask, that is. So yeah, the good thing about it, you can find a roommate easily. I don't trust people, so I choose to live by myself, y'all. I went through college having roommates, and I only literally had one good roommate, and that person was like a really close friend of mine, but everybody else can kick rocks. Like, I hated having roommates, so I personally can't live with roommates. I like my peace. I'm a germaphobe. I'm very particular with how I like my house, so I wouldn't recommend if you're a germaphobe and you're very particular to live with roommates, because you'll be miserable. But if you don't care, yeah, roommates are great options because you have cheaper rent, and if you're bored, your roommates are there, so you can talk to your roommates. Like, if I'm bored, the most I'm doing is like talking to my cat, because that's all I have in my house. Another good thing about Facebook groups is there are shorter contract terms. Usually when you find like housing as a foreigner, is what I've heard and is what I'm experiencing, you have to sign a 2-year contract. So my last housing was 2 years, and this house is also at least 2 years I have to live here. Obviously I can move out and somebody else can come in, but the contract says it's 2 years. But if you find it on Facebook, sometimes you can find something for 5 months, sometimes you can find something for 3 months, but usually that's only on Facebook groups. If you actually go to a realtor or something, it's gonna be 2 years always, 1 to 2 years always. Another good thing about Facebook is a lot of foreigners are the ones using these Facebook housing groups, so the landlord probably is already okay with foreigners living in their building. There is a lot of those type of problems with like people who like landlords in Korea don't want foreigners to live in their building because some foreigners don't pay rent, or some foreigners are really dirty and they just want like foreigners to live in their building. Like, I remember when I moved here, by the way, my landlord now is such a sweetheart. Like, his whole family lives here. Like, he was very particular that he did not want any guy to live here. He only wanted a female to live here. And he was very particular, like, are you Korean? Are you foreign? Does she know Korean? How long has she lived here? So there are these questions that they will ask you. But if you do the whole Facebook group, nobody's gonna ask you those questions, because they're like, well, the person moving out is foreign, so why not have another foreigner inside, right? So yeah, another good thing about Facebook is they already know that it's going to be a foreigner problem. It is something to note that foreigners are not very much loved in the real estate community in Korea. Like, I don't know why, but we're not so loved. And then the third option, so I told you guys there's apps, there is Facebook groups, and then the last option, which is what I utilize, is just going straight into a realtor, like real estate agency. This can be really good and it can also be really bad. The good thing about going straight to a real estate agency is they only show you things. That's a lie. I was gonna say they only show you things in your budget, but I remember when I went to like my real estate agent, I told her my budget and she started showing me things that like $100 over my budget, $200 over my budget. This lady, she's funny though, I love her. But that's one thing, they will show you exactly what's in your budget, but they will also try to whisper in your ear and be like, you have $100 left, it's okay, you'll be fine. And like they're paying your rent. That's one thing, like one good thing about real estate agencies, they will ask you exactly what your budget is and they will try to find exactly what your budget limit is. And this can be like your deposit is 1,000 and your rent you want it to be like 400. They have those options. Another thing about if you just walk into a real estate agency, you have to pay 30% of your rent to the real estate agency when you move into your house. So I think I paid my real estate agency like $320 or something like that. So I moved in and that was like their thank you for getting me housing type of payment, right? So you have to pay your real estate agency. If they don't find you a house and you just like leave, no, you still have to pay them. So I started looking for my house I think 3 weeks before my contract for my old house was done, and I was just like, well, I just walk into any real estate agency. So at first I tried doing it with my Korean friend because I was very nervous about just doing it by myself as a foreigner, because I was like, oh, what if they're racist? You know, there's always those concerns if you're black in a very not black country. So I went with my Korean friend. We had no luck because all the places they were showing me were like the size of like a closet, because I wanted to live like in the center of Gangnam at first, but I was like, I also have a cat, so like I'm not gonna live in a place that doesn't allow cats, and I'm also not gonna live in a closet. Like I'm too big for a closet at this age, like come on now. So that didn't work the first day, but she was too busy to go with me any other days on the weekdays, so I just had to put my big girl panties on and just do it by myself. So I ended up doing it by myself, walking into real estate agencies. Obviously I was speaking in Korean, I was not speaking English, and I had zero problems with anyone. I didn't feel like anyone was not welcoming. If anything, they were very welcoming. A lot of the real estate, also they kind of have to be welcoming because you're giving them money at the end of this stage. Like come on now, I'm paying you to do this. But a lot of the real estate agencies will just call me and be like, hey, there's a new listing, do you want to come over and check it out? That didn't really work out until I came to this neighborhood and walked into the real estate agency that a friend of mine recommended, and this Ajuma was so sweet. Oh my gosh, she's so sweet. Like if I ever move out again, I'm definitely going to her again. But she was very sweet. It was her and her husband, but they would be like, oh, this house is really nice. Or if we would go to our listing that was kind of crappy, they would be like, it's kind of crappy in here, but it is in your budget, but I would recommend you living here because you are a single female, you know? Like my real estate agency was absolutely amazing. And then when I found this house, she actually recommended me to another real estate agency, and this real estate agency was the one for this house. So it was like two little ajumas like walking around with me finding house. It was the cutest little thing. It was just adorable and they were just so sweet to me. And when I met my landlord, like the real estate agency was full of like compliments. She was really trying to get me in this house. She was telling the landlord, she's really sweet, her Korean is nice, like I haven't had any problems with her, like she has a lot of manners, she's Christian. Like she kept pushing that whole Christian thing a lot, and I was just like, girl, I'm paying this man at the end of the day, you know? But she was really pushing for me to come into this house because I fell in love with this house as soon as I saw it. And funny thing is, this house was actually a lot more expensive. Like this house is supposed to be jeonse. Should probably explain what jeonse is in the beginning of this video. So there in Korea, there's 월세 and there's jeonse. 월세 means rent and jeonse means like you basically kind of buy the house until you move out. So jeonse usually it's 100,000 to like 500, 600,000, 1 million, whatever. So you basically, okay, so this house was supposed to be 300,000 for jeonse. So the girl who was living here before, she paid the landlord 300,000, and he doesn't bother her about rent or anything. He just keeps her money, 300,000, and all she has to do is pay utilities. But girl, I don't have 300,000 sitting somewhere, and I'm for sure not gonna get a loan for a house. No. So not a house, I'm sorry, an apartment. I'm not getting a loan for an apartment. So I was just like, well, I'm sorry, I can't do jeonse, but I would be willing to do 월세 from 15,000 to 20,000. So that was great. So usually there are some places that are like absolutely not, it has to be jeonse, or they'll be like absolutely not, it has to be 월세. So it just depends how much money you have saved up, and if you're Korean, you can just get a loan from the bank, so that's another option. Anyways guys, that was my tips on how to find housing in Korea. I hope this video helped. Comment down your questions if you have any questions, because I always read my comments and I usually answer back to most, if not all, of my comments. Also comment down below and tell me how you found your house in Korea if you live in Korea, or tell me how you feel about roommates, because as you guys can tell, I'm allergic to people living with me. Anyways guys, thank you so much for watching today's video. Don't forget to click the like button. Also click the bell down below so you can get notifications for when I post. Notification gang, what's up? Thank you guys so much for watching. And also, if you made it to the end of the video, next week I will be doing my first giveaway in my channel. I have never done a giveaway because I've never had anything to give away. But I've partnered up with Mimi Box to be doing a giveaway. This will be for next week's video on Sunday. I'll be doing a big giveaway for Korean skincare and Korean makeup. So make sure you look out for that video next week so you can get a chance to win a bunch of Korean products. Anyways guys, thank you so much for watching and I'll see you guys on my next video. Bye guys! Bye guys!